Hey everyone, it's Trish
and Brecken,
and we're back with our first video in our mom series. And this evening we want to talk to you about bedtime. Bedtime with toddlers and bedtime with babies. And we've talked a little bit before, and we kind of have some of the same ideas with that, and we've come across some interesting things that are different and interesting things that are the same. So why don't you go ahead and tell them about your kiddos and how old they are.
Okay. So Parker is 17 months and Paxton just turned 4. And my infant is actually the really good sleeper and my older one is not a good sleeper.
And mine are kind of the opposite. My son is 3.5 and my daughter is just a few weeks short of being 1. And he is, my son is the great sleeper, and my daughter is a good sleeper for a 1-year-old, but my son has always been very much clockwork, like 7 to 7 and with no interruptions. And my daughter still occasionally will get up maybe once during the night, which I can't really complain. But we're going to share with you some tips that we've done to kind of transition our older kids into their own beds and their own bedrooms and all of those things, and how we try every night to get them to sleep at a decent time. So, do you want to share what you do for Paxton?
So Paxton always gets, Paxton gets his 2 books out, then he gets his show, and then after his show he goes and brushes his teeth. And then after he brushes his teeth, we read his 2 books to him, gets a drink of water, and then he goes to bed. And he has a special Spider-Man light, and he always has to have that on, and he has a sound machine on. So those are the things that help him sleep. And then in the hallway, he likes to have a light on. It used to have to be the hallway light, and we finally transitioned him just recently to just a little night light out there, and that seems to be good for him. And then we have a little light on in the living room so he can walk across the living room, to our room in the middle of the night if he needs something. So then that way he can see and he's not screaming from the other side of the house. So that's how he sleeps.
Okay, and my son, Graham, kind of the same thing. I think it's really important to have a routine, whatever it is that works for them, and to, gauge exactly when you would like them to be asleep and work 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time for that. So for my son, it's kind of the same thing. We brush our teeth, we go in the room, we get a lamp on, which has been really great for him because you don't have a bright overhead light on when you're trying to transition your body into sleeping. Same thing, 2 books. Usually Dad is the one who reads to him while I'm still taking care of Charlie. And they read their 2 books, and we say our prayers, and he does have a nightlight. He's always had one since he was a baby that stays in his room, and we have that on, and hugs and kisses, and he goes to sleep. Now, my daughter, she's not wild, but she gets this thing about the time that you would like her to go to sleep. She's all of a sudden gets really wild. She's not screaming or anything like that, but just like this burst of energy. So a tip we thought about was putting whichever child you have, if you have 2, whoever the better sleeper is, to kind of get them to bed first. And for my son, who's a deep sleeper, once he's out, he's out. So if he goes to bed and one of us stays up kind of with my daughter while she's getting her sillies out and getting her last feeding, then that's what has worked really well for us, as opposed to trying to put her to bed and having him maybe wake her up or her wake him up.
And ours is the opposite. Parker goes to sleep really early. He has to be in bed between 7 and 7:30. It's always been 7, and recently with the time change we've moved it to between 7 and 7:30, but he goes to sleep then, and we do the books and then brushing his teeth, and then I'll feed him and put him down. And then he has a sound machine in his room, and it's pitch dark for, I don't know why we've always done that, but when they're sleeping in their crib, then we've always had it pitch black in there and their sound machine. And then when they've transitioned to being a toddler is when we've added the light in. And those are the main things. I guess the other thing for Paxton, we have an alarm clock, and that's mainly because he loves to wake up and thinks that it's a sunny day, and if it's a sunny day, then we have to get up. And so you set the alarm clock, and so it'll a big light will come on. It'll be a bright green, and then he knows that he can get up. Now, I can't say that he actually sleeps all the time till 7 a.m., but that is the purpose of it and our hope. And when he does, he's super excited, and he gets a little special treat if he sleeps till 7. So that's kind of his little thing. But yeah, that's how we work it.
Yeah. So now, in the most simplest of forms, that sounds so nice.
Right.
Well, you know, when my kids get older, they'll just read a book and they'll brush their teeth and they'll go to bed. But when you're first making that transition into their big boy or big girl bed, you know, or whatever it's going to be outside of the crib, for some people that it can be tricky. I think the most important thing that we agree on is to just be very consistent.
Yes.
And your husband, wife, partner, whoever you have, grandma that might be helping, is to have them be on the same page. I've been super lucky with my son. The first night we put him in there, we said, he got up once, we said, no, this is your room, this is your bed, you need to stay. And he said, okay, and he went to sleep. And I think some of the things that my husband and I did to kind of try to set that up was to really have him take ownership in his room. He moved actually from where he was as an infant to a big boy room and bed. So we let him help pick out his bed. He helped pick out the paint color and helped Dad actually paint the room. And he picked out his own comforter too. So he would, and we really talked it up, you know, in the few days while the paint and stuff was drying, that this is going to be your room and you're going to sleep in there and it's going to be so cool, and just really, you know, made it seem like it was going to be an awesome thing.
Now, did you do the toddler bed, or did you go straight from the crib to the big boy bed?
We went straight from the crib to a big boy bed. Just we didn't do any type of toddler or transition. And we've actually bought him a very nice bed that will last him till he's out of the house. We just felt like that was a good investment as opposed to buying something in between. And we knew we were going to have another child, so we really didn't want to have to buy another bed.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Because ours is a little different. We did the crib, and then we turned it into the toddler bed, and then we went from the toddler bed to the big boy bed. And Paxton was a lot like Graham, where he would sleep 7 to 7. He would sleep 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. He was an amazing sleeper until we hit the big boy bed. And then he thought, well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do all this. And it's still taken him almost, till almost 4, well, probably about to 3, for him to actually sleep in his big boy bed, and till almost 4, well, probably about to 3, for him to actually sleep in his big boy bed. I wanted to let you moms know that it can be very different. So you're not gonna. Some parents are gonna be like Trish, and their kids are just gonna go straight from the crib to the big boy bed, and they're gonna sleep really well. And then you might be like me, who has struggled for years since going to the big boy bed for your child to sleep in a big boy bed. So just know that either way, we've just, like we said, consistency is huge. Even though you might not get the full night's rest, like for us, we were just like, if we can get a couple hours in before he wakes up, if we can get, if we can just get him to get into his bed and to stay without coming out 10 times before falling asleep. And so you just have to set up those little goals. I think that's really important, and to be, take pride in those little goals, because if you try to go for the full night, I think you're going to feel defeated, and you're just going to maybe go back to the crib or back to the toddler bed, wherever that transition, kind of stumped you up a little bit. I think that it's very important to have small goals, and like you said, being in tune with your partner. And knowing that, you have to support each other, because I can't tell you how many times Mike and I would sit on the couch and be like, oh, seriously, and the other one would have to, pump the other one up to be like, let's go for it, like, let's do it again.
Yeah, it's your turn. Yeah. You put it back in there. No, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. And that's the consistent thing too. I think, in a lot of perspective, what's best for kids is obviously, in our opinion, is to sleep in their own bed and to get a good night's sleep. And I know there's a lot of family beds out there, and if that's what you do, I think that's great and wonderful. For me, and for my husband, I know that that's not what we wanted to do.
Right.
And I think there are times when, in that moment, especially when you're tired, there's that part of it's like, just let him sleep in our bed.
Right.
It would just be so much easier. But what's easier is often not what's best for kids or for you.
Right.
So, or your family. So, be consistent. Try to set up a routine. Try to have a generalized time that you want to get them to sleep, and just work towards that, and celebrate every little step that you get closer to that, because at some point you will get there. So
I agree, and I think that that's very important. And then the other thing I was going to add was visuals. That some kids, don't need them, and then others, like my son, we just wrote it on a little thing, and he loved just making a check mark beside everything and knowing that his day was done. And I think that kind of helped him be like, okay, so I have to do this, this, and this, and then it's time to go to sleep. And I think that that can be helpful too. So maybe not, but that's something, you know, else that you can try to keep that consistency going.
And especially for boys, kind of a transition, like we'll let Graham know whatever he's doing. I'm like, oh, I'm setting a timer.
Right.
In 5 minutes, we are going to get ready to go to bed, you know. And I would like let him help set the timer. And he'll go, okay, Mom. And just last night when it went off, he's like, Dad, the timer went off. It's time to go to bed. And come on. And he was, you know, wanting Dad to start the routine with him.
And I think those first then statements are great for the little ones. You know, first we're doing this, and then it's time for bed. Or first books, then brush teeth. You know, whatever those are. But always making sure that you're putting it first this, then this, so they know what's coming next. And so I think that's great, even setting a timer, because we do that as well too. Whenever he has the show, he gets, you know, depending on whatever, wherever we're at in the evening, but he usually gets about 20 to 30 minutes. And then he gets a timer, and whenever the timer goes off, no matter where he's at in a show, he knows that it's going to stop and we're going to be done.
Yeah, you have to be done. So just stay with it out there, those parents that are struggling, or those of you with itty bitties who will be getting there before you know it. So we hope that you've enjoyed our tips, and comment below if you have other things that have worked for you.
And just know we're here to support you.
Yes. So as always, take care.
Bye.